This review of Bionicle the game may contain spoilers and coarse language. If neither of those bother you, then have fun watching and enjoying this review. Nostalgia is a fickle mistress. Sometimes you're a smart kid and realize when things are garbage, other times you don't. There's a fine mystery of finding out if something you liked as a child was good or bad. In most cases, I was lucky. I had Sonic 2, Toy Story, SpongeBob, Battle for Bikini Bottom, Need for Speed Underground. Yeah, pretty good. But I did say most. And this is why. Bionicle the game. How a game like this got released is a mystery. It's a buggy game with a terrible camera, pretty bad storytelling, unbelievably bad combat, and overall shits on everything that was Bionicle. Look, I understand the love of these things. Heck, when I took a trip to Mall of America, that's all I bought at the Lego store. I even had those crabs with the remote controls that were fucking cool. My point is that even if you have a thread of nostalgia for Bionicle, stay away! And here's why, starting with the story. The plot to Bionicle the game is not as simple as it may appear to be. The reason why it isn't is because it's kind of a combination of 3 different arcs in the Bionicle storytelling universe. Starting with the Borak arc, and then the Borak Call arc, and then the Mask of Light arc. The whole point of the game is that you're playing as the 6 Toa, who are the defenders of Matanui, representing the elements of ice, water, stone, earth, wind, and fire. But wind is actually air. So how does it combine all the stories? Well, it just does the Borak arc with Tahu and Kopaka, then they become Toa Nuvas. Gallinuva takes care of every single Borak call, which, that's not how it happened, and then they just had the rest of the Toa Nuva doing the Mask of Light stuff. Oh yeah, this is really rushed. Wow, they did a terrible job with this. So yeah, the game does what it can to try to combine all of these arcs all together, and fails. I mean, it's completely rushed. This is terribly, terribly rushed. But guess what matches the rushed story? The gameplay of Bionicle the game is a 3D action platformer, where the platforming parts are actually okay, but the action parts, oh god. Every Toa controls the same with some differences like what the Y button does for them. Each of them have a double jump, an attack, and a shield move. The point is to attack while you have meter energy. If you run out, you have 2 options. The first is to find a spot and hold the shield button down to charge your energy back, or you can activate your shield to convert energy thrown from enemies into your energy. This mechanic itself is very cool, and that's where the cool ends. There's no actual attack besides your projectiles, which you can barely aim yourself, and instead auto-targets enemies. The whole mechanic besides the shield ability is awfully implemented, and you can't really control where you fire unless you're Kopaka. But that still's barely some control because the hit detection can be really ass. But the worst part of this combat is easily with the designs of the Toa. Have you noticed anything? Are any of these fucking guns? The lack of any melee attacks suddenly makes this game a shoot and wait ordeal with combat, especially when you have fucking swords and claws. Just hit them! Not only that, but the game's camera is an uncontrollable nightmare. While usually cameras in video games can be controlled, this game is more, no. The camera's never really pointing in the right spot, and it's not helpful in many situations. While some of it is because of the level design, other times it's just in shitty places, and even more times it'll just snap back no matter what you do. Speaking of shitty, let me tell you guys something about this game's level design. While at some points it's just okay, other moments it's just awful level design. A great example is in Anua Nuva's stage, where they just place enemies on platforms that drop from the sky and land right on top of you to damage you. There's also this great part where you have to survive 10 instant kill attacks. Oh yeah, dying at the 9th one and going all the way back is totally fun. Woo! Worst of all are the surf sections. In these, you hold forward and backward to accelerate or decelerate. It's simple enough, but the issue is these fucking controls are horrible. You'll be smashing into walls and careening out of control in these stages. Boss battles are certainly mixed. There's some that are pretty good and some that are pretty bad. It's hard to put into words how easy and hard these annoying fucking bosses are. But worst more is how boring they are. Some bosses like Kopaka's are exciting, even though when you fail one, you get a 30-second cutscene that you can't skip for your death every single time. But others are just stand in one spot and shoot. Pathetic. It's just so pathetic, lame, just... no. One boss that I thought was pretty okay was the Nuvas. By the way, that's not easy to say. Where all you had to do was push rocks into vents and then the Roxy would be crushed. Another boss that I enjoyed was Le-Wahi. No, I know it could be Le-Wahi, and I know it could be Le-Wahi, but it's not fucking...
Ta-Wahi?
This boss was fun because it was kind of like a puzzle, and you had to make sure the Roxy couldn't make it to the next area safely. But overall, the rest of the other bosses are just weak, and since the Toas all control the same, there's not much variety besides the whole shield reflects dark energy stuff. The worst bosses are Ta-Wahi and Ga-Wahi. This is because it's the same for both of them, with Ga-Wahi having to fight more of them, and basically what you do is you just stand around and wait until one enemy dies, and then you have to keep going for the rest. And yes, you can literally stand there. I'll give credit for the final boss actually trying something different, letting Takanuva fire without worrying about energy, but of course the camera would rather focus on Makuta instead of the enemies that he summons! There's also miscellaneous problems with this game. For example, there's no way to increase its X speed, or even skip it. You can only skip cutscenes that are FMVs, but everything else you have to watch. There's also the Nuva Blast move, which all Nuva characters can do. How many times do you need this? Only in Ga-Wahi stage. Oh, don't worry, the others can do it, but... why? There's also miscellaneous bugs and other garbage in this game, like the shitty camera angles and the clearly rushed cutscenes.
I must return to the others at once.
What do you say? Was that even a cutscene? It looked like we could control Kopaka, but I guess not. And don't even get me started on Pohato Nuva's cart stage. Actually, this is a review. Let me get started on it. This is a giant minecart system where you have to lean left and right to hit switches and to get energy to power your cart. Already this is a nightmare because your meter is constantly draining and you have to lean left and right to get into all that other fun stuff. But of course, the energy can be in spots that are incredibly inconvenient. And no matter what, if you get hit, you don't just keep moving. No. If you get hit, you stop, and then you have to re-pick up your speed, losing way more energy. Luckily, the input is pretty exact, but I still have hunches that Pohatu has grabbed something and he didn't actually get it. Oh, and also when you fire your projectiles here, good luck actually hitting something. Though I will give some credit where credit is due. For the extras in this game, you don't need to collect every single life stone as every character. You can just collect almost enough. And when you do get some pretty interesting extras. And by interesting, I mean way better things that LEGO produced instead of the actual creators of this fucking mess. This game also contains a giant lore book about everything in Bionicle, so if you're ever lost, you can at least go back to the menu and read up on everything. Though, of course, with Bionicle, that's... oh god, there's so much with this fucking series. The graphics for this game are mediocre. The main gripe that I have against this game is the wishy-washy merge attempt to try to make the characters either look like the toys or the movie interpretation. Because of that, you get a third, undefined look for the Toa that honestly isn't that appealing. And for some reason, they gave Ga-Wahi an ass. It's strange, but it excites me. But otherwise, the graphics are just mediocre. They really do have an early 2000s look to them, and despite how vibrant they can be, it's still pretty ugly looking for a game. But that's not to say it's all bad, because there are some parts that do look very good. The animations for this game are also okay, and the performance for this game, you know, optimization, making sure everything works, is pretty bad. At times, the frame rate does flip around and go over here and there, so if you ever play... What am I saying? I'm saying for you to not play this fucking game. Just don't! Don't. And the frame rate's bad. The audio is where things get a little interesting. The first thing is that the sound effects are okay. You can tell what everything is, and that's good. However, they are a little bit quiet. On a good strand, though, the music is actually pretty good. I remember even back when I played this as a kid, Ta-Wahi's theme. Now this is nostalgia. sure hope you like that song, because it's going to be interrupted constantly. Anytime you get into a battle, you always hear a battle song. And when you do, it resets the entire music. And sometimes it doesn't stop playing. And sometimes when it stops, there's no music at all. Excellent! But yeah, this music's pretty good. But it ain't got shit on the Game Boy Advance game. Oh man, this game is awesome. Wait, no, it's not. No, don't play this one either. Don't. Now when it comes to voice acting, this is where it gets a little strange. There are actually a few pretty familiar voice actors to me in this.
Do not worry, Taragavakama. I will see to their safety.
And while I can't find any actual confirmation on this, Takua certainly sounds familiar.
I have seen them. Strange new creatures, dark and...
Use your radar and hints to find them all.
Yeah, but overall they're okay. However, there are two problems with this game. The first is that this game's audio balancing is a little strange. There are times when just in cutscenes, characters' voices switch volumes.
Power, and it is also their weakness. Capture the Chrono.
I'm chasing a Borak now. He's heading for the Kinney. There isn't much time.
But not just that, the music that you've been hearing in this before, that's from the official soundtrack release. In the Gamecube version of the game, just take a listen. Yeah! It's very compressed. And no, this isn't some issue with emulation or getting it to run. No, it sounds like that on anything. Alright, best part. What's the best part? Changes. What would I do to change this game to make it way better? Well, for starters, actually make it cover the story arcs it was supposed to cover properly. Shit like the Toa-Nuva transformations and switching from the Borak Call to the Rakshi just happen. No explanation given, it just happens. I would love to instead make these plots work together and make sense instead of this colossal mess it became. Secondly, is completely retooling the combat so that melee skills are priority and blast charges are for when you shield properly as a reward. No recharging shit, just a projectile reward for when you can use it. But a melee playstyle would be great because you don't need to aim for it and it makes sense. The camera needs to be retooled too. As it stands right now, being directly locked behind the player is good for platforming, but horrible for combat. They need to have some scenic and better camera angles. An example being a slight overhead that is just far enough to not shrink the player and the enemies, but still far enough to show you where your enemies are located. Not only that, but the audio, why is it so low quality like that? I'd take that right out and slap that awesome OST release in it. And also, no battle theme. None! Along with fixing the audio balancing issues for sure. The graphics for sure need a tune-up. On one of the extras, it's shown that they are clearly capable of making models for the toys that match. So do that. I would imagine making models like that wouldn't cost too much on resources. Even that cancelled Bionicle game on PC had one-to-one LEGO models to game models, and there's no reason that they couldn't have done that. So yeah, I think that would fix a few... Oh, yeah, minecart. Nope, get away. No, gone. Give Pohatu-Nuva an actual level. You know, actually, fuck it. Just make the game with these fixes and throw Bionicle the game away. Just make a completely different game. In fact, fix the PC game that was cancelled. And do that. Okay, that probably won't be happening, but at least some creative fans have been taking that into liberty. So that's Bionicle the game for you. A giant mess that you should never touch. Even if you have a fraction of nostalgia for Bionicle, stay away. It's an unfinished, buggy mess, and you should not play it and play a better game instead. Like Quest for the Toa. That one's pretty rough, but it's still pretty fun. Maybe I should have reviewed that instead. Anyway, my point is, stay the hell away from this game. You're not going to enjoy it, it's not going to be fun, and any nostalgia that you are going to have, It's not gonna come back well. I have so many questions.